Fresh like a bread out of oven, it says on the program this morning. It's a Monday, of course, first edition for the new week working that starts today. And we especially would like to welcome you to a Global Morning here on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Uyi Agbom of Wegbe. One of the ladies driving the trend around the Chike narrative now is also on the program this morning, even though that will not be the focus of our conversation. Let's welcome no other than world-renowned influencer.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Okay, well, you say like that, it's okay to see you.
Thank you very much. I would assume you're joking. I think that was a joke. Viewers,
there's a record now.
Okay, it's a beautiful Monday morning.
It is. And you look like one, by the way.
Oh, I look like a Monday.
Like one of these persons who are afraid of Monday mornings. I mean, you look like you woke up prepared.
Is there
for it.
anyone on the surface of Earth that is not scared of a Monday morning? I would like to meet such a person.
You met me for quite a while.
Oh, interesting. Right. Wow, I am really delighted to meet you. I'd like to know you more.
Well, I'm Monday.
What drives your motivation?
I realized that there's something called Eat the Frog, right? Monday mornings in particular, Monday mornings appear to be one part of the business week or the working week that scare a lot of people. I realized that very early because much younger, as early as 2008, 2009. I think I've said that here once before. I used to listen to a radio show where the lady, the host of the show, every morning would do Hitman Mondays kind of segments on our breakfast show, and then she would congratulate those who, very few of them by the way, who said they were excited about the Monday, they were looking forward to it. But the bulk of the persons who listened, who called in, who were involved in the show, didn't like their Mondays, so she would flog them.
So she had the wrong audience.
She would throw it out them, all right, just to ensure that they were geared up for Monday. So I realized that you have to take it head on because you can't run away from it. Really, what options do you have? Deal with it. So for me today, Monday feels like any other day apart from Saturday and Sunday.
Would it be like, I know if you had an option of not liking Monday morning that gives you, or that is presented to you on the platter of God, you jump on it. Can we say at this point you're not calling for what you want? Because
it's not about not calling for what I want. It's about understanding that Monday is pivotal in the kind of work that we do, right? Yes, I worked in an organization where Monday was my off day. I mean, that was weird. Did I like it? Yes, I did, because I knew the other days of the week were going to be full for me, very demanding time, energy, and whatever. But I'm saying this to say that you must look at your options. Right? Can you run away from it? I have a friend who has worked in the bank for maybe some 15, 16 years. You know, he told me one time when he just started for the first few years, he was in marketing. So every other Monday, he's scared to his very core because he knew that Monday morning there will be time to do review, do an assessment of the previous week. How many customers did you get? How many accounts did you activate and things like that? And then, of course, as they often say in the banking space, we do not reward effort, we reward results.
Have you worked in the bank before?
Right, so...
Same another day, right?
Yes, it is. But then, the point is, he was always kind of Monday. So by Saturday night, he was already very apprehensive. But then, one thing leads to another. One day, he gets notified that he was being moved to operations. He said at that point that was the biggest and best day of his life as a banker, right? He's been in the same bank now since I think 2009, 2008. Right? And I'm saying all of this to say that people have a handful of reasons to be scared of Monday. But for some of us, the lesson we've learned is the earlier you deal with it, the better for us.
Okay, absolutely. I mean, they started the show with motivation, trying to motivate us. So I believe our viewers have been motivated to start their Monday with all the energy. And you just have to face it. You have to face it. And you started off too by calling me one of the advocates of.
I say you have to drive a trend. I'm not particular about what side of the divide you're on. I'm only saying that you want to drive a trend.
You affiliated me with Chike, and I'm wondering how did you get such signal? I mean, like.
What is that now?
I'm not trying to disassociate myself from my Igbo brother, because Chike is my Igbo brother. Yes. First off, he's a human being, right? I understand the whole
But are you really discussing Cheke? I thought I actually just enriched your CV by saying that you are influential enough to drive trends.
It was not clear because at this point you have to be clear.
And I just
people run with narratives. Right now you have to always provide context so that people don't take you out.
Because context matters.
It does.
So is the glass half full or half empty?
I don't know. Depending on the context where you're looking at it from, it can even be empty at this point.
Sorry, no glass to me.
Okay. So
well, it's a great movie just starting out. Saturday was big, 16th of May, the day of the boy child, right? I know Priscilla is always excited. We'll talk about the boy child because she has vested interest and she's proud to say so. I do have vested interest too. And when we are not, we all do, even if you're not a parent yet, somehow you have a brother, we all have fathers, all right? We have men. We have young ones that we care about. So on a day like that, it goes beyond ceremony, doesn't it?
It does. For me, the International Day of the Boy Child is something I take very personal because it's the day my son was born.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm a boy mom. I have 2 boys, so I mean, it's that day to reflect and see how far we've progressed. All through the years, we've talked about the girl child, the girl child. If you want to see people driving initiatives, NGOs, at the forefront of a movement, you find more people, centered at the girl child, and very few, very few, driving the boy child initiative. So it's that time to again sit, reflect, and see how far we've gone. What progress have we made? What are we not getting right? Because when we say we want a beautiful society, when we say we want inclusion, when we say we want some people say equality, right? We must understand context again. We must understand how it affects every single gender. And the boy child, we live in a society where I would always say men are told, don't cry, don't talk, sulk here and just keep quiet. You're a man. Be a man. Men don't do this. Men don't cry. Men. And I always say, how did we? Who sat together and? Who are the men that did that meeting? Is it a matter of, or is it an issue of being institutionalized? People just grow up and find out that is the way it's done, and then regardless of whether it fits you, whether you agree with it or not, you just have to just follow that rule. And we have a generation, the Gen Zs right now, that are questioning all those norms. And sometimes they are also going overboard, trying to understand things. So you're trying to solve a problem and you're going towards another extreme.
Complicating
the process. So we need people that have gone ahead to sit this people down and give history, to help them understand where all of this mindset or societal norms, I know that it could have come from a good place, depending on what existed at that point in time. So times have changed and we have to evolve. We need older men to intentionally mentor the young guys, to let them know that this is what is available now, this is what we had then, this is why we did what we did then. Right now, you guys don't have all of this. This is what you can change. For me, that's it.
I am particularly thrilled by the theme for 2026. It says Thrive, and then it talks about promoting inclusion for every Nigerian child, right? You see, it doesn't say for every Nigerian girl child, it says for every Nigerian child. It apparently cuts across gender, so which means that no child should be left behind. But that has not been the conversation for the most part. And like you highlighted a while ago, there seems to be this imbalance in favor of the girl child, which is good. I've got both by God's grace. So I understand how that can be. But then I've seen situations where we appear to be tilted in favor of the girl child, and thereby in the process leaving the boy child behind, forgetting that at some point in time in the near future, the boy child and the girl child will have some sort of interaction.
Exactly.
That we have been in the same class, being colleagues, dating, getting married, going to business as partners and what have you. So are we ready? Are we resourced? Are we mentally, emotionally, are we intellectually, spiritually, and psychologically ready for all of that process? Mentoring, for example, this year is one of the elements being highlighted. The boy child needs mentor.
Yes.
Do they have mentors? Who are their mentors? In an era where in a certain part of the country. Is that you're talking about criminality in terms of internet fraud? You're talking about cultism. You're talking about terrorism and things like that. Who exactly is the model the boy child needs to look up to and pattern, so to say, his life after? These are very crucial questions we must answer today and always.
Absolutely. For me, another thing I find at the center of this conversation is the fact that we find that a lot of women are groomed, prepared for marriage. But I don't know how many parents intentionally, a lot of men go into marriage and just realize this is how it is. A lot of men get married because, I need to start a family. I need someone to take after my name and all of that. But they, just like, like I highlighted, the female child all through her life is told, you have to prepare yourself for your husband. You are reminded of your husband even before you get married.
You're going to be a mother.
You're going to be a mother. You're going to have children. There's that consciousness, right? And depending on who receives it, some people that are well brought up make the most out of that very advice. But for the boy child, you're meant to focus, for a man, he's meant to focus on making money, you understand, and take care of your family, more responsibilities. And then the knowledge for relationship, necessarily you're not equipped with it. But maybe you turn out to be a great provider. And now, a lot of people are questioning the fact that a man is not just meant for provision. Because there are men that eventually do not make all the money in the world. But they find themselves in the family set. So when you are not able to bring money, do you feel embarrassed? Do you feel ashamed of yourself? What's that thing you can also contribute to? Because there are men that get married to women that are financially more buoyant than they are. So at that point, you begin to feel incapable because I don't have it. No, you shouldn't. So there are lots of things that make you a human being. There are a lot of things. So we should intentionally groom the boy child to understand what marriage and relationship generally is about.
All right, I think Priscilla is your next resource person when we need to talk about issues around raising the boy child right. She's been there, done that, as they say. So what to talk about in the program today, Priscilla ought to give us an idea what we are eating for breakfast, but it looks like you're taking a fast today.
No, I don't think it's time to fast. Maybe it's time to fast because of part of the issues happening in the country. Maybe we'll talk about that after the breakfast.
Let's put the proposal on the right and then we'll consider it. All right, I want to bring you some breakfast idea this morning. Of course, as we always say, no need to let it cut out of the bag so early, but here is taste and texture.
Hello everyone and welcome to Taste and Texture. I am your chef for today, Saadatu Garba. Today we're going to prepare an easy Nigerian delicacy and we will be breaking down the entire process. In this episode of the program, we will be preparing oatmeal with fruits. Oatmeal is always a delicious and simple breakfast option. This one is a recipe that is filling, delicious and nutritious, especially when taken with fruits. Also, this breakfast oatmeal can be made in under 5 minutes by anyone. In addition to the speed and ease of making it, it is also fun to make. Main supplies: raw oats, milk, sugar or honey, water, banana, coconut chips, apple, cashew nuts. Step 1. Place a clean pot on the stove and add enough water to cook the oats. Step 2. Bring your water to a boil and add the oats while stirring gently to avoid lumps and burning. Add more water if the oats is too thick to the consistency you prefer. Step 3. When your oats is cooked, add honey or sugar, then add your milk and mix properly. Step 4. Dish your prepared oats into a bowl. Step 5. Dice your apple into small bits. Peel and slice your bananas, then add into your bowl of oats. That's it. Your oatmeal breakfast is done and ready for consumption. Now it's all yours to enjoy. That's it on today's episode of the program Taste and Texture. Hope you will try this recipe in your various homes and hope you enjoyed the program. Join me same time next week for another episode of the program. I am Saadatu Garba. Thank you for watching, and I'll be catching you on the next exciting meal.
All right, so there you have it. I'm sure at least now you have one more item in your bag, which is a breakfast item that you can, of course, make the most of today. We'd like to say a big thank you to our team that does every time an amazing work of ensuring that we're not stranded breakfast-wise, especially those of us who are not fasting like Priscilla.
No, it's important to fast in today's Nigeria. You can't be eating.
Why do you have to do that?
When the country is preparing for 2027 elections.
So you don't leave anything to chance,
right? No, you need to get yourself in tuned, aligned, as we prepare and bring forth a president come 2027. But why
is it like a party leader?
But I heard of something quite sad this morning. Some students, teachers have been once again abducted in Oyo State.
Oyo State?
Oyo State, yes. And when I saw the video of those teachers crying out, calling on the government to come help them, it broke me to pieces again. It can never be normal. It can never get to that point. It should never get to that point where we see these things as normal. It doesn't touch us anymore, even if it's almost getting to that point, because it keeps reoccurring. And I really don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know when this is going to come to an end. I don't know what we need to do. I don't know what we have not done. I don't even know what we have done at this point. Because every day there is one assurance of the military doing their very best to curb insecurity, and the next minute you're seeing another tragedy. So where do we go from here, I ask? How do we come out of all of this?
It's quite disturbing, to say the least. It has become a case of what they call your best is not good enough, that sort of thing. The challenge is so overwhelming now that you almost cannot help but not see whatever it is government is doing, really, because it appears like the case of a man trying to raise 10 million naira for a vehicle, but all he has been able to raise the last 6 months, it's 3 million. 3 million in 6 months means that the man has been able to raise 500,000 in a month, which in today's Nigeria is quite significant. But the question is, how far away is 3 million from a 10 million target? So to that extent, it looks like the man has not done much, right? It's the same thing we're dealing with. And as we have always said, which is the fact, which is the reality, assurances are not enough. Nigerians don't want assurance. How do you assure, for example, on a Friday, by Saturday night, there's another attack? By Sunday night, there's another attack. By Monday afternoon, there's yet another attack. I read some sort of advisory from an individual yesterday on Facebook, where he listed, was it on Facebook or WhatsApp? Well, it was somewhere on social media, where this person listed at least 15 to 18 different points. One of them that really got to me was the person saying that, look, these were like pieces of advice for people to be able to minimize the chances of being attacked or falling victims, was saying that if you have to travel for an event out of state, don't travel in a group, don't travel as an organization in one bus, don't travel as a group of students in one bus, don't travel as a family in one bus. Travel individually, disperse yourself, so that even if there has to be an attack of some sort, say kidnapping, for example, the casualty, the impact will be minimal, as against when you are hearing that 35 persons, 22 people, you might be like, how did we get here? I've been here long enough to know that one of the ways to get fun or to get kicks, as they say, when you attend events out of state or even out of the city, is when you travel in group. The kind of conversation you have on the bus, going, coming back, and things like that. When I got married, for example, my former organization made 2 buses available. They traveled from my state to another state to go give me a wife, right? Came back by those buses, by road, and no incident, no drama whatsoever. I'm wondering, if I was getting married today, would I take that kind of risk? Because yes, the organization is showing benevolence, they're showing it's been magnanimous, but the question is, will I want to? So the thing is, we are in a good place, and the president and indeed those who lead our security architecture must realize that words are never enough.
It's it's not even something we should accept at this point.
Right.
We cannot talk of it not being enough. Something just has to be done. And for me, the baffling thing that, really bothers me is the fact that at the end of the day, somebody's blaming somebody, somebody's blaming somebody, When you clearly promised, when you come out to become a president, I'm not trying to say that it's not tough. I know that it's not an easy thing to lead, people in the country that has 774 local governments. You know the variety of the clash of ideas, the clash of interests, the clash of every single thing. So it's definitely not going to be easy. But when you come out again and say, I want to do this, what are you really wanting to do? Is it that you have not factored in the fact that it is really a big deal? It takes a lot. And you've not factored in the work, because they say if you want to build a house, you count the cost. So when you take on the presidential form, what you're saying is, this problem will arise here, this problem will arise here, but I will be able to solve it. That's what it means. So you don't get in there and say, oh, you guys pity me, there's something I can do, I'm a human being like you. No, you have to be responsible. When it is beyond you, you come out and say, oh, this is really tough right now, but please hold on. We're doing our best. But you must just assure us that you can bring us out of it. Else, I don't know what you want to go back there to. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You see, let's not push this beyond this point for time factor. But the fact of the matter is, what normally happens in an ideal space, whether public or private, is once you're hired, you're appointed, you're elected to do a job. And after a while, all indicators point to your inability clearly to not be able to do that job. Then you step back. And most times it's not because you're weak, it's not because you're a bad person. It may not be circumstances beyond your own control. But the thing is, there has to be the honorable action, which is to step aside and say, look, I think even companies do that, especially abroad. You run a company for 5, 7, 8, 10 years. You realize that you are at your wit's end, so to say. So you do not have the bandwidth, in the manner of speaking, to push it for the next 5 years. So rather than have the company rescind or retrogress or be stagnant, what do? You sell it up to maybe a bigger entity, a large corporation. They buy it over, and that's why you say the last 15 years or so, several companies have been bought over, not because the original owners or founders were poor, were weak, or were, as it were, despondent. It just simply means that legacy was the long shot. All right, we need to have legacy, and to do that, we must detach ourselves from ego, from pride, from this idea of I was the one that started the company, how can I not sell it to Priscilla? That sort of thing. So it happens, you have to do the same thing.
But also, do they even really treat it as something I have started? Because if you value the time you've invested in it, you hand it over to the right hand. But most times, there's no more...
So that your investment doesn't die.
But it's always a case of, let me give it there's no careful selection.
I think there's careful selection to the extent that it favors a narrow kind of interest.
The interest, exactly. The interest now is what we should be looking at. What are you looking at?
Is it something
exactly. Is it something that you're doing for solely your pocket? Or you're doing it basically to see that Nigeria itself is being presented well at all fronts, and internationally we're being seen as the best. That is where interest now will be checked. So it's a whole lot to talk about. I mean,
so much really. Hopefully, we have the time to, as it were, just break it down for you in the course of the program this morning. Let's take a quick break again. We love here on the program to lift your spirits, and Ramsey Enoch Agbo is the right man for the job on Heart to Heart Inspirational.
Hello and welcome to another moment of Heart to Heart Inspirational. Well, let's talk heart to heart a little bit, because a lot of people have not been able to bounce back after the last time they failed. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Welcome to Heart Inspirationals. Failure is a feedback and not a funeral. I want to say that again, because of people who failed Some people fell and they remain on the ground. They never got up again because of what they feel people around them are going to say. But then failure is a feedback. And that's why some people will tell you all the time that whatever happens, all right, there is a lecture from every lesson. You know, whatever happens to you in life, there is something that you are meant to learn from it, either positively or negative thing that you need to take cognizance of and be watchful as you move on the journey of life. So I just want to tell you today that failure is a feedback and not a funeral. What kind of feedback did you get from that last failure? Have you even tried anything at all? Have you experienced failure before? If you've not experienced failure before, it means you need to try harder, because on this journey of destiny, people who are successful today are people who have failed a number of times and they got up on their feet, learned from their mistake, and their mistake became a stepping stone for them, and of course they are where they are today. Why? Because they never allow that failure to become a funeral to their dream. What am I emphasizing? As a matter of fact, let's normalize something today, all right? Let's normalize something today. A failure, you've heard about it all the time. Okay, this person is a failure, that person is a failure. You know, people assess their counterparts, their neighbors, their brothers, their colleagues differently with different perspectives. Some persons already have been tagged as failure, and that has been affecting a lot of people. But then, have you accepted that you are a failure? That somebody told you are a failure does not make you a failure until you accept that you are a failure. All right, not because it feels good, yeah, but because it is necessary. Sometimes, you know, it's risk. It's risk. If you have taken a risk before, and of course, it didn't go well the way you think it was going to go, and you failed, it doesn't mean that is a funeral. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I was speaking with someone a few days ago, yeah, and we're talking about a particular business, and the young man told me, now I am successful, but then during my wilderness experience, when I was in the workshop, nobody knew anything about me. When I was failing over and over and over again, I lost money several times. I had to stay indoors and think of the next thing to do. He failed severally until he said, no, I am not going to allow this failure become a funeral. My dream is not going to be cut short by this failure. And he stood on his ground. Consistency. I must always emphasize consistency anytime I come up to speak to anyone on heart to heart, because it is very important. If you want to succeed in life, then consistency and discipline is very important. But the bottom line is this: nobody ever succeeds without first stumbling. Yes. You stumble, then you stand again. Even every little child, before a child starts walking, you stand them up, you see them, they walk a little bit, they fall. They walk a little bit, they fall until their leg gets stabled on the ground. All right? And you see them walking firmly. Then before you know it, they start running. The same thing is applicable to life. So failure, as a matter of fact, is not proof that you can't. All right, it's not a proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you tried. It's a proof that you tried. When you fail, it means you tried and you failed. It doesn't mean that's the end. It reveals what doesn't work and refine what eventually would work later. That's what failure does. Anytime you fail, you know that, yes, this one does not work. Let me try the other one. It gives you a focus. It makes you know that, yes, if I go this way, I'm going to fail again. So I need to do something else. It's only a fool that do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. If you are doing one thing the same way all the time, you get the same result. You need to apply technicality, strategy, discipline, excellence every time. Whatever you do, let that touch of excellence be in your head. All right? So that when you fail, in one thing, you try doing it the other way. But then don't allow that first, second, third, fourth failure be your funeral. Let your dream and your vision and your talent not be buried because you failed. Because that failure is trying to refine you, is trying to build something in you. What do you have to do? I want you to know that failure, what it does is that it reveals what doesn't work and refines what eventually will work. But you need to have this mentality. Every setback is information. If you are willing to learn, yes, that's what it means. Every setback that you've had in the past is an information. Because there is something you need to learn from every setback, from every failure. Everyone throwing stones at you right now is because they know you are going somewhere. A lot of, see, let me tell you the truth. We have a lot of friendly enemies these days. Some people are smiling with you, but then they are not interested in your success. What they say behind you, if you hear it, hey, but then that shouldn't deter you. That shouldn't deter you because you have a destination. So every setback is information if you are willing to learn, because most people don't fail because they are incapable. That you failed, it's not because you are incapable, but because you are going somewhere, because you are dogged, because you are rugged, because you are determined, because you are focused, because you have a dream, you have a vision, something you are pursuing and something you want to get. You have a target. So when people like that fail, they fail because they don't stop. But if you stop anytime soon, it means that failure has gotten to you. Let me give you an instance, an illustration. For instance, a GPS recalculates when you miss a turn. It doesn't shut down. All right? Failure, in other words, simply means it's time to adjust. Anytime you fail, the message is, no, I need to adjust. This principle, this procedure, this formula is not working. I need to adjust. There is something I need to do so that I don't fail again. That's what it means. Anytime you fail, there is a message. It is telling you it is time to adjust the procedure. It is time to re-strategize. That's what it means. All right, so you don't need to abandon your journey because you failed. There is a practical mindset shift that you need to have, and this is it. Number one, stop attaching shame to failure. Yes, stop attaching shame to failure. Some people, when they fail, they feel shy. Oh no, I'm not going to get on that stage again. They will laugh at me. No, I'm not going to do that business again. People will laugh at me. People will mock me. The same people will celebrate and want to identify with you if you are a success. So there should be a mindset and a mind shift for you. Extra lessons instead of self-criticism. Stop criticizing yourself because you failed. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people with other people because you failed. That you failed. Failure is not a funeral. Stop burying yourself in shame and criticism. Try again. Make it better. Make it wiser. Make it stronger. That's what it means. All right? Failure is tuition paid for future success. That is a quote that I'm bringing to you now. Failure, I said, is what? Is tuition paid for future success. But if you don't pay, if you go to school now, all right, 100 level, you need to pay a tuition. In 100 level, you get to 200, you pay another tuition before you can get to 300 level. In every of this level, there are tuitions to pay. If you want to change levels in life, don't be scared of failure. If you are scared of failure, you will never try anything good. So what do you have to do? Keep pushing. Don't bury your dream because of one mistake that you made. I'll keep saying this. Learn, rise, and move forward. Don't worry about what people are saying. Don't worry about the situation around you. Don't think, oh, I have failed. I don't need to try it again. Keep trying. Change the strategy. Become wiser. Failure make you wiser. Because you walk through this way and you fail, you apply this strategy, this technique, this principle, this formula, and you failed. You will now need to re-strategize. Use another formula. All right? Until you get to your success. Until you get to what you want to achieve in life. All right. So you need to know that anytime you fail, it's a signal that you need to turn. You need to do something again. You need to re-strategize. You need to improvise, come up with something new. As a matter of fact, failure is not the best option for you. So what you have to do, try as much as possible, right, to be sincere in everything that you do. Because if you want to please people, it will be disastrous. You don't need to please anyone, all right? You don't need to please anyone. It is when you're thinking about pleasing people that when you stumble, you say, oh, I've disappointed this person. I've disappointed even people who really love you, who want you to be successful. By the time you fail, instead of them condemning you, they will come and encourage you to do better. And that's the reason you need mentors. That's the reason you need people to talk to per time. All right? You need to talk to people. See, if you are embarking on a project, I emphasize mentorship all the time. I was speaking with a friend a few days ago, and I told the person, if I want to do this thing you're doing now, it is going to be express for me. It's going to be easier. I may have hitches. There might be some times where you have losses or maybe failure at some point, but then you have people to ask questions. I have someone to ask questions. Hey, I got hooked here. What do I do? Even the disaster is not going to be as disastrous as it would have been if you never have anyone to guide you on this journey of destiny. You really need people, okay? Because as your association determine your acceleration in life, okay? And your friends, you need to be careful with the kind of friends you have. If you have a bad friend, it is disaster. If you have a good friend, it means you have a shoulder to lean on, a shoulder to stand on and be tall so that you can get to that success that you are running after, that you are pursuing. Yes, congratulations, everyone. You are a success going somewhere to happen. Don't allow anything stop you on the way. Not failure, not criticism. Don't bury yourself because you failed. Failure is not funeral. Bye-bye for now and have a beautiful day.
For still being here with us. Right now we dive straight to the newspaper review segment to let you know what is happening in national daily. And we're starting with the first daily. It has first story besides the nameplate that says Ebola, NCDC heightens surveillance on the DR Congo, Uganda outbreaks. Okay, over the weekend, we have cases, the Ebola outbreak in some, regions in Africa, DR Congo, Uganda, right? And we are hoping that it is curtailed as soon as possible. I like the fact that the NCDC are trying to take preventive measures before it gets to us. I mean, at this point, we can see Nigeria is working small. Okay. Next story. Adeleke orders security reinforcement in Osun schools after Oyo kidnapping. I kind of highlighted this and how This is really a sad one. We hope that this is really handled fast, because most times I hear that the government leaves this ransom, collection and putting together of monies to the families that are the families of the victim.
Right.
I don't know. It shouldn't be, especially when it has become a public thing like this. I think it's the responsibility of the government, starting from the local government to the state government to the federal government, to see to it that these people are released. But you hear someone, the guy that was kidnapped in just came out and said, my family put together 5 million naira at first. At some point, they negotiated with the kidnappers and they said, okay, it's fine. Then when they finished, they brought the money. The kidnappers said, we needed more money, and they had to tell their family. The family also puts together money. And I'm like, this very scenario, this very case is a public case. Why are families putting together money? What happens to Plateau State government putting together that money? At least if you come out to say, oh, this very tenure, we were faced with so much, we couldn't even develop the country, the state, because we had to pay ransoms. I really feel like some Nigerians say, oh, okay, you understand? Maybe, it's not acceptable, so we don't really accept it, but this, we can excuse you.
Because it's a matter of life.
Because it's a matter of life. Well, we don't see the government. I don't know how many of these cases they invest their money, or the monies of taxpayers. I don't know. I don't know if it's me alone that's looking at it that way.
The conversation around ransom payment has been very controversial, has been very political, and indeed it has very strong economic elements in it. Up until this point, the U.S. will tell you, we do not pay ransom, we do not pay terrorists, we do not even negotiate with them.
That's because they create a secured environment.
We're going to get to that, yes, to an extent, of course. That's instructive to mention, right? But then, we've heard time and again from a wide range of sources that even under the Obama administration at the point, the U.S. government had paid ransom to, even in Iran, for example, had paid ransom to a couple of terror cells there and there. So it depends on whose interest is involved. It depends on who is kidnapped. It depends on what exactly the states or the entity at that point in time wants. Back home, because this is obviously a domestic problem for us now, government feels very embarrassed to hear that it is being said state government, federal government, local government negotiated with terrorists, to the point that you even had to bring out taxpayers' money to pay ransom. I can assure you, no government will agree that, even if they do. No local government executive or chairman would agree that. No president would agree that. And that's the reason you see people questioning the circumstances around announcements of release by kidnapped victims, whether it was schoolgirls somewhere up north, or were some people traveling from the south to Benue to attend an event. When government comes and says all 348 girls, for example, that were kidnapped from so and so school have now been released unconditionally, the question is, who negotiated? How so? How did we get to know the people? How did it happen in such a way that none of them was hurt, no scratch, nothing? And nobody provides information in this regard. So the long and short of the story is, government feels embarrassed to even have it said that it paid ransom. Therefore, it's not going to go there. So government now makes it an issue of, we have a policy that prevents us from negotiating with terrorists, let alone pay them for release, so we don't pay ransom. Therefore, if the family now says, because of the law they have for their person, they want to pay ransom, we also cannot stop them as a government, because it is a family thing, first of all, before it is a matter of national importance. So you see the dilemma it creates, and government exploits it to get away with its failure, or you can say inability to secure the lives of citizens.
Well, it doesn't make sense, and it will never make sense to me, because you can't say we don't have. There's a reason for every law, every rule. People don't just wake up to make rules out of the thin air. There's a reason why it is said that we do not negotiate with terrorists. It could be that we don't allow. We have done our part. Because let us see that you've done your part first. You cannot leave your own part undone and now hold on to a rule, a law that I don't know who created, I don't know who came together to form, and now say you're not hinging on that. It's lack of it's irresponsibility to the highest order. So it's like I said, it is better. I know that you have an integrity to protect, but it should be at the verge of you doing your own part. It should be at that point where you have done all that you need to do. Then you say, oh, we can't do this. When it becomes reoccurring, it is obvious that you're not doing it. And we have to change the rule. Somebody needs to sit down and change the rule. Because it keeps reoccurring. Families the economy is bad enough. People have not fed well. And then you're coming together to tell people to raise. You've not been called for ransom. Most that's why these things happen. You call friends, you call family. So everybody in that community contributes. Sometimes you feel bad because I don't have. You carry the guilt for a very long time. Imagine someone reaches out to you for ransom and you couldn't pay, then you hear the person died. How does that make you feel?
You generally want to help, but you are financially constrained.
The people that are emotionally blackmailed all through their lifetime because of these things. So it's not a one-person responsibility. It's not really sometimes a family responsibility.
It's a community.
It goes as far as to that community, the entire community, put together monies to release that person. And when it has not gotten to you, you will not know the reality of the situation. And then in the midst of that, you tell me, oh, we can't pay. And then you come again and say, we are doing our best. And then it happens again. Somebody has to change the rules at this point. It just has to be changed.
Okay. Well, Priscilla has given us a piece of inspiration, and what we do with it is up to us.
Okay, so let's go to the big story, the star story, and it's on the 2027 elections, I presume. Shock, losses, big wins, rock APC reps primary. Over the weekend, we saw, a lot of people mocking other people, the likes of Cubana chief priest, that they said lost his primaries after being the Southeast coordinator of the city movement. Nigerians have come to lash him, and in the midst of it, he gets himself motivated by trying to drop another single. What a way to
pivot attention.
What a way to pivot attention. Nigerian social media users are beginning to understand the media space. So when the attention is on you, just try to be productive. And you see that you can sell something good with that.
You can turn a bad situation into business.
It becomes a win-win for all. Well, we really empathize with those that had their hopes dashed over the weekend. And life goes on. Better luck next time, as they say. Next story, Serap to INEC. Photo alleges 800 billion naira fact diversion for APC campaign. Okay, let's. I hope this is fact indeed, because everybody come out to say things right now on the media. So they say freedom of speech. There's freedom of speech, but there's no
guarantee of freedom after the speech.
Guarantee of your freedom after the speech. So be very careful what you say. Over the weekend, social media content creator was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. Someone that had come out to falsely put out an information saying that the daughter of Adekunle Gold had passed. This is how the extent people go to create a buzz, just to get traffic on their pages and
social media money.
Yes, and a lot of people have commended that very effort, because this is a lot of other people lessons. But I think Showore is about to fight for the justice of that guy. Let's see how let's see how that turns out. Next, abducted Oyo school principal, students plead for rescue. You need to go watch that video. It's a very emotional one. NDLEA seizes cocaine bond for UK, Australia arrest suspects. Dangote expands Ethiopia fertilizer projects investments to over 4 billion naira. Is Dangote about to go into the agricultural sector? Finally, FG bans contract variation without BPP approval. Those are your headlines for the first daily. Look up, read details, get yourself a copy. We go to the next point of call, which is the Nigerian Tribune.
All right. Top left here says World Health Organization declares emergency as Ebola outbreak kills over 80 in Democratic Republic of Congo. We hear there's no case in Nigeria, but then the NCDC has assured citizens that it's up and doing. Nigeria not in debt crisis, but doesn't have to borrow. Experts highlight other options on page 6. I'm sure that will make a good read. NLC pushes for fresh wage review as 70,000 naira implementation crisis worsens. Accuses 17 states FCT of non-implementation of current minimum wage. That's concerning. And a big one has a kicker that reads, as APC holds Senate primaries today, Ogun East, Kwara Central, Imo West remain contentious. What are the writers saying? The first one says, Senators plot return tickets. Daniel Campaign Organization directs supporters to boycott Ogun East primary. Controversies hit reps primaries as more candidates emerge. And then on the left side corner of the paper, let's see the first one here. It says airtime lending freeze persists despite court orders, affects 40 million Nigerians. Well, for those who actually borrow airtime and data, those details are on page 5.
You know, there are people that have abused this thing. You see them going to buy SIM cards just for the purpose of borrowing.
Buy SIM cards again and again.
Yes, they buy, they throw away. Buy, borrow, throw.
So it means your contacts cannot have your phone number over time. I mean, it's simple.
There are people that don't care. They really don't.
As long as I'm able to get in touch with those I want to get in touch with.
I mean, it's maybe they might have their
primary number,
but they would have other alternatives that they keep swapping and swapping and swapping. So this whole thing will definitely affect them.
Sure. Well, it's a regulatory issue now, again by the FCCPC. Then what more do we have here? It says BOI, that's Bank of England. Okay, before that it says Saudi authorities declare May 26 Arafat, May 27 Eid al-Adha. Those will be next week, Wednesday, of course, and Thursday of May. That will be Big Salah, as we call it in my dear country. What's more, BOI secures $200 million financing facility from AFDB Group to aid Nigeria's industrial transformation. All right, so that's a real huge loan there. Then there's a bit about health. So scientists reverse stroke damage using stem cells. That's groundbreaking, and we hope it continues to scale. Again, including Nigeria. Abducted a law school principal, teacher in videos appeal for rescue of students, teachers. Writers say police subjects viral videos to forensic analysis. Yoruba land now under siege. Federal raises alarm. Nudges Southwest governors on attacks in Oyo, Ekiti, Ondo, Kwara. Oyo Deputy Governor visits community, says security agencies on top of situation. We hope that's practically the case. Well, those are all the headlines from the Nigerian Tribune today. Do well to read up details for yourself. Next port of call is the Punch newspaper.
Thank you very much. On the Punch newspaper, we'll start with the first story, top left corner above the nameplate, and it says, primaries, APC reps fight back after ticket losses. Again, I ask, what happens to their money? Will they, at least they should be given a percentage of the money to compensate, because if they don't compensate them, then there's definitely going to be an implosion in APC.
So you're saying most of these people are not loyal enough to want to see beyond their personal ambition and be party men and women?
Do we have such politicians in Nigeria?
I thought we have a few of them. I know of one of our guests who would always say, I'm a party man. We look at a party man. But is there a better way to establish
Did he contest?
Not yet.
Not yet. We will know if he's a party man.
After he spends his money buying from.
Once his money buying from them,
maybe we'll begin with House of Reps of 25 million.
We'll test his loyalty.
Hopefully that test will be in 2031.
Okay, so it's not a very good one for. But what do you expect when you go get your money, buy a form, and you're not the only one on that queue? It's either you win or you lose. Right. So Nigerians should learn sportsmanship. You cannot, if you don't win, you lose. If you don't lose, you win. Whichever side of the divide you are,
right.
Just take it with good faith.
There's no third option. And it's interesting. Some of these people who have now, as it were, lost out in these primary elections are the same people who tell you if you're not satisfied with the process, go to courts. And then they say the judiciary has done well and things like that. So when it favors them, so how are you going to sound now? Would you take it, strides, as my cousin would say, and then of course be sportsman in this circumstance? I doubt.
I guess it's not so easy.
Right.
Okay. Related to that says 26/7 lawmakers crash out. House leader orders reject exercise, threaten lawsuits. Again, I say there's about to be an implosion in the APC. 63% of Nigerians want interest rates reduced. I don't get it. Which of the Nigerians? Is it the bank owners?
I'm sure the business people who always seek facilities from banks. There are people who still take loans for for initiatives around agriculture, real estate, and whatever. You don't think mostly?
I thought it was the near to zero interest that the bank gives. Or, on your savings and whatever.
No. It's the standard interest rates, what they call the NPR.
Okay,
right.
So, because, it should have meant something entirely different. Oil nears $110 as Trump threatens strike on Iran. I thought we were done with these, Uncle Trump. Details on page 33. The big story has Oyo school attack. Senate Yoruba leaders demand action as distress video emerge. I don't know the kind of heart these people have. Video these people in their...
The kidnappers, right?
The kidnappers. I don't know. It's not bad enough that you are torturing them. You also have... You are torturing them in the process. You're having a record of it. While you're doing it, while you see these people cry... It takes one that has thrown away their conscience and buried it. We're talking of such a situation, as real as it already sounds. The first line of action is to probe. I don't know if that's the first line of action, though, because we've not seen any other kind of
line of action before this.
We've not seen any other line. We've not heard of any. So I'm assuming this is the first
line of action
because it's out here. So you are trying to probe before you rescue. Is it that human lives have become dual, duplicate?
Right.
I don't know. But maybe for security reasons they're putting out all the details. Right? So let's assume they're about to take action.
Let's believe this is part of the standard procedure.
I think I feel better. Next writer says, Afeni Fere wants Yoruba land under siege as Alafin Yoruba Oba's Council. Others condemn abduction, of course. Senate moves to expedite state police after kidnappers hold on to 87 teachers. 87 teachers. Students in Oyo, Bruno. Wow. 87.
Not a lot.
87. So it means that it was not a rush hour.
They took their time.
Exactly. Okay, next story. OT LP rejects Abure's 2027 nomination forms seal. We're back.
Right,
we're back again. Like a wounded lion, as they say. Okay, so it's about to become interesting. It looks like when a party emerges in Nigeria, you just have people that are there to keep it going,
right?
Regardless of
they are the engine of the party.
Keep it going. Don't worry. One day, we'll break through. Dangote raises Ethiopia investment to $4 billion. Details on page 34. Ambassador of Italy to Nigeria pays courtesy visit to Polo. And Nigeria tightens surveillance as Ebola kills 80 in Congo. Details on page 8. Hoodlums rape Lagos sexagenarian to death. Sexagenarian. Who's a sexagenarian? We'll have to read that up.
Okay, that's the headline we're looking at.
Yes.
Hoodlums rape Lagos sexagenarian to death. That should be, I think that's somebody in their 60s, yes.
That is sad.
That must, unless it's a different situation, that should be a drama ordinarily.
Interesting, of course. Of course. Page 4 and 6 is where you see that detail. I can't even imagine it. Federal government cracks down on unapproved contract variations in NDAs. Details on page 33. Those are the headlines for the Punch newspaper. Okay.
All right, let's take the last paper quickly. Last one will be the Disclosure newspaper this morning. On the Disclosure, I'll just look at the big one. It says APC primaries, governors take charge as 26 rep members lose return tickets. Benue, Imo, Jigawa lead list of non-returning lawmakers. Lagos, Rivers Assembly speakers win reps tickets. A party holds Senate primaries today. So all fingers crossed. Let's see what happens with the APC. My state of Edo, especially as it has to do with Edo South, already has its own trouble brewing, all right, between some of the big wigs there. One, a chieftain of the party, the other, someone who joined the party barely 2 years ago, two-time member of the House of Representatives. It's just a clear indication of how that all is not well with the primaries within the All Progressives Congress, and Global Television, as always, will track those developments for you. And those are all the headlines from the Disclosure newspaper this morning. And that's how we end it on the paper review segment of Global Morning. As always, it is our delight to always encourage you to read up details for yourself so you can stay ahead of fake news. Remember, too, that the headlines we bring to you are such that Global Television, as a broadcast media entity, or the team here on Global Morning, does not in any way contribute to them. We'll bring you the headlines exactly as published by their respective publishers. We'll take a quick break now. Up next is Social Buzz with Ogochukwu Mobuno. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debates, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction, Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
At Aerogym Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,500 high-quality shoes every single day. Paramilitary shoes, safety boots, desert boots, ankle shoes, back-to-school footwear. All crafted with state-of-the-art equipment and built for strength, comfort, and durability. For reliable footwear that stands the test of time, choose Aerogym Shoes for better product, strong steps, smart style. For inquiries, call 091-264-53399 or 070-3009-3944 or 080-6573-8374 or call 081-3167-3668. Email info@aerogym.com. Website www.aerogymdesign.com. Aerogym. Walk with confidence. Walk with pride.
Social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues making wave on social media. Today, we're moving over to Ebonyi State, where a shocking moment from the APC primary election in Ebonyi State has stirred massive reactions online after an electoral officer allegedly made a glaring numerical error during the delegates' count. In the now viral clip, delegates were seen filing out to cast their votes for their preferred candidates, when the party official assigned to count the voters suddenly jumped from 85 straight to 201 while announcing the figures. The unexpected counting error left many delegates and social media users stunned, with several netizens questioning the credibility and transparency of the exercise. Let's take a look at the video.
Video. Stand number 1. 250, come out. Video. Let's see
Now 2, now 3, now 4, now 5, now 6, now 7, now 9. 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 110, 511, 512, 513, 514.
1, 12, 40, 100, 102, 201, 304, 401, 502, 503, 508, 800, 1,000, 101. Okay, where are you, Mama? Okay, 101. 1,101. 1,001. 1,001.
That's a lot right there. That's a primary in Ebonyi State. And I'm asking myself, if we have seen this in the primaries, what are we to expect in the election in 2027? Well, let's take a look at some comments from social media as regards this. And the first comment is coming from Hype Man Guru. And Hype Man says, the people need help. This is slavery in 21st century caused by hunger and insecurity. All right, thank you, Hype Man. The next comment is coming from Dre Shmorda. And Dre says, for those who used to think a woman would be different, they are all cut from the same cloth. Thank you. The next, which is the last comment for this topic, is coming from Chamlet Official. And Chamlet says, so no one was there to challenge her, or what? Why do we allow impunity to take place when later we start regretting why we did not act in the first place? This was how it all started in 2023 election. Thank you very much, everyone who dropped their comment concerning this topic. And yes, we're going to take it up from here in the studio with Priscilla Obasi. Good morning, Priscilla.
Good morning, Ogochukwu.
How are you doing? How's your weekend, by the way?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right, so let's look at the primaries in Ebonyi. This happened in Ebonyi, and a lot of persons, this is something everyone is questioning right now. On social media, it's all viral. It has gone viral, this clip, and people are scared for 2027 election. If this can happen in the primaries, how about 2027 election? What are we to expect? And why is nobody calling these people to order? This is a lady doing this. Why is nobody calling her to order? I'm really, really scared for 2027. I won't lie, because this video has even said so much for a primary election in Ebonyi State. We don't know about any other state, but this one went viral. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an eye-opener. I like the fact that it's even coming out now, so that people are aware of what to expect on the D-Day. I don't know who made this video. I don't know where they stand. I don't know what was the intention. Of course, for this video to go out, it means that that person wants to clearly put out the irregularities that comes with Nigerian elections. But at first when I heard it, I was thinking maybe they had some number on their forehead that the guy was calling out, because I don't know if this is mathematics. It cannot be maths. It can't. It can't be maths. See that they have something, or the video was cut. If this is real, if this is actually real, then there is a lot. This elections has to be redone. It has to be redone. Whoever won that primaries, if eventually the person, it wasn't questioned and that person eventually won, then it clearly has to be redone. It's malpractice. INEC has to start to look at it. INEC's focus is not just on the elections day, on that the day where we vote our president, 2027, where we vote governors, gubernatorial race. No, this is where it starts. They need to monitor primaries. They need to make sure that free and fair elections already start. It starts from the grassroots. It starts from party politics. It starts from party elections. So I need to see INEC act on this video. If eventually that person that playing soft foul play there eventually won, then we need to hear from INEC. That's what I would say.
All right, thank you so much, Priscilla. We really need to hear from INEC. I saw this video yesterday and I started questioning so much. And, it's just like you said, it's an eye-opener. And, I started thinking, I was just trying to imagine what must have even happened before this counting. I just started thinking of, maybe giving out, dishing out. We've seen people give out rice, we've seen money, we've seen cash, just to vote for someone, you understand. So I was just thinking about those things. I'm asking myself, what exactly have they given to these people? Because why didn't anyone say, no, Ma, you made a mistake? Why did no one question it?
Do you even know why they are there? Is the question to start with. A lot of people may not even have known why they were
maybe you tell them, okay, stand on the queue, we're going to give you something.
They're counting you to know if you came. We want to know how many people came here. So we're going to count you and, make sure that you're part of those. So,
well, how come no one stood up to her to say, Ma'am, you're doing the wrong thing, you're counting wrongly?
Well, no one. Again, this is just a video, right? We don't know what happened, on this.
Like you said, maybe there's number.
Yeah, maybe they eventually called out the person. Maybe they eventually corrected the person. We really don't know. But I'm just saying, if this actually played out and eventually if that person won, then we need to look into it. I mean, INEC needs to look into it.
Honestly, INEC needs to look into it. So we are sending this message directly to the chairman of INEC. Please make sure that you call these things to order, because this is the process to 2027.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't want any loopholes. We don't want anything in between, because if this is happening now, then 2027 election is not assured. Since sponsorship was on Global Morning, I am about to come up now. Please stay with us as Oyi and Priscilla usher us into the discussion section of Global Morning. Good morning once again, Nigerians and viewers around the world.
We listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
for the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
We can't say it enough, apparently. Internal democracy is the very beginning of democracy. We do not get it right in our political parties, what I would call the process primaries or the day-to-day administration of political parties, regardless of how placed the party is, whether it's the ruling party or one of the parties in the opposition. The fact of the matter is, leadership must begin within the internal mechanism of political parties. Otherwise, we're just going to be, as it were, playing the ostrich, advancing double standards or even multiple standards. Because at the end of the day, the people who try to play smart with their own primary elections are the same people who are going to throw themselves off or be thrown up to be voted for in the general election or off-cycle election. So at the end of the day, it's a question of garbage in, garbage out. And the leadership of political parties must take responsibility for how they conduct themselves, especially when it comes to, as it were, determining those who will emerge to represent the party in elections.
Like I stated with Ogochukwu, I think INEC also needs to look for a way to make sure that this process is also integrated into its duties, because that is where it starts from, right? Look at the number of old women on that field. You could not. I didn't see a single Nigerian youth, and I'm asking, party primaries, is not solely supposed to be for party members, right? So are you telling me that those people are party members, like
the ones on the queue,
those old women? Where are the young guys? Where are the youths? Are they not part of the party, or is it just for that very?
Obviously, that was an instance of direct primaries.
Of course, we need to see Nigerian youth represented across different political.
Not just grandparents.
Not just grandparents. Exactly. We don't want to see parents. We want to see Nigerian youth. So, in reality, are they party members? Let's not even deceive ourselves.
Because you have to be primarily a member of a party to participate in this process.
Exactly. So it's questionable, honestly, and INEC needs to call out these things. They need to call out these things. You cannot. They already had a rule that you can't join a party from, what was that date they gave again?
Right.
I think it was 15th May or so, 10th of May.
Right.
Yeah, it was already a standing rule that at so time, no new intake will be allowed. So at what point those people join? First of all, let's know. Was it a dying minute? Was it on the election day that they were called upon to come stand on the queue? Or were they giving cards? We need to also see that we digitalize this process, or digitize this process. Yes, let us know party members before primary elections. Let's be able to go on the INEX portal to see the names of people who belong to.
We can double check.
So we can double
that way there won't be, the more you look at less.
The same way we can know we have a
Well, all eyes on INEC, as always. We understand our guest is joining us on the program this morning. We're focusing first of all on the Day of the Boy Child, driving values and responsibility for national transformation. Our guest is Simeon Ikpa. He joins us from Kaduna virtually this morning. Simeon is a boy child advocate. Simeon, would like to say a big thank you to you for your patience this morning, of course, for joining us here on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's nice to be here.
So let's get started from the very last rung of the ladder. Let's talk about the boy child in Nigeria and what the reality is for him, because from the way we live, the sort of conversations we have, the narratives that we advance, it appears that the boy child is safe, protected, and insulated from all of the challenges of life, especially as it has to do with our own immediate environment. Whereas conversely, the girl child appears to be the one that's the endangered species. Talk to our viewers this morning in specific terms what the boy child has to face in a place like Nigeria.
Okay, good morning once again, and thank you for having me. I'm so pleased and blessed and honored to be in your faces. I count it as a great and a rare privilege to be here. You know, one of the things with the boy child that I want to first of all point out is the fact that in Nigeria, the boy child is mostly and largely neglected, especially when it comes to the issue of total well-being. Spiritual, physical, mental, emotional. A lot of times, the boy child is felt to be a man, even though he's just a child looking for a way to express his inner childhood. And in Nigeria, a lot of times you hear phrases like "man up," "don't cry," "don't do this," "don't do that." Don't you know you're a boy? A child will fall, for example, and they say, "No, don't tell him sorry. He's a man. He shouldn't be told sorry, he should man up," and all of that. Now, growing up, a lot of these children that are boys grow up with the perception that they are not supposed to cry out, they're not supposed to be emotionally vulnerable, and they're not supposed to open up to a lot of the things that are happening around them. And I believe a lot of these things are shaped by, our cultural values and a lot of traditional models that have been passed down to us from our parents and from generations before us. And it goes a long way to say that the boy child is quickly promoted to manhood because he's not allowed to be vulnerable. He's not allowed to open up and then speak up when he's supposed to speak up. The boy child generally in Nigeria is somebody that needs to be held and then given hands-on experience of what it means to be a child, and then the transitory phase between childhood and adulthood, between childhood and manhood. And a lot of times, the boys in this part of the world don't get that kind of experience because of like I said, the cultural model, and then the shaping the shapings we've gotten from our parents and our forebears before now. But I believe with what we're doing in the Boys Fellowship and a lot of boys advocacy group in Nigeria, I believe the boy child will have that bridge, and then there will be a synergy between the growth of a child who has become a man and, of course, a boy who is seeking for expression.
Very much for that, Simon. One of the theme of this year is largely focusing on mentorship for the boy child. I really feel like, especially in a place like Nigeria, mentorship is quite scarce for the boy child. Most times you have to overdo, to be mentored by that very person that you see as a role model. It doesn't really come easy for a lot of boys, and because of that, they are left to either stay on their own, figure out life on their own, and eventually, somehow, it can get messy if they are not with the right hands or if they are not exposed to a right environment. So I want to talk about mentorship now for the boy child. Do you think mentorship is indeed a focus? Do you think we have mentors, we have men that are really in this generation, because a lot of men are coming out now to exercise their rights and talk about how they have been left behind, try to advocate for themselves regardless of whether we have enough advocates or not. But on mentorship, do we have enough mentors to mentor the Nigerian boy child for the national transformation that we want to get out of it?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say every boy's first mentor is his father. And if we all agree that every child or every boy child has a father, then I'll say by that largely, yes, every boy child has a mentor. But, we live in a very broken and disjointed society with a lot of dysfunction, where we have families where boys grow off single mothers, and then they don't get that fatherly role, that fatherly responsibility in their lives. So as a result of that, a lot of them grow with a skewed kind of attention, such that they just have an emotional side of them that is, buttressed, that is covered by their mothers, but their fathers are largely absent from their lives. So to answer your question, I'll say we have a lot of mentors, but we do not have a lot of these mentors actually in the boy-child advocacy. And by that, I mean that we have quite a number of people who are worthy mentors or role models, as we want to put it sometimes, but a lot of them do not see it as something that they should actively participate in to bring the boy child to a point of understanding that he needs to grow through process to become what God has designed for his life to become, or what the society intends that he turns out to be. We have a lot of mentors around or role models who do not teach, responsibility early. They do not teach how to become compassionate, how to become empathetic, and all of that. So I would say we have mentors, yes, in their numbers, but in terms of quantity, in terms of quality, in terms of actually imparting the knowledge, we don't have a lot of them in the field. And that is what we are requiring. That is what we need to bridge the gap between boy-child vices and then adulthood. And that's what we require when we talk about having boy child who needs to grow to become a full-grown man that is responsible to himself, his family, and the society at large. We need lots of mentors who are practically with boots on the ground, working and ensuring that every boy child comes to the full stature or to the full measure of what God has designed for his life to be, or what the society, as I mean, in entirety, designed for him to be.
That significant percentage of crime rates are attributed to the male child, right? So what does this tell us about the urgency of investing in the male child today? First off, do you even agree with that statistic?
Well, statistics are numbers, and most times they are facts. So I wouldn't want to debate with them because they've gone through rigorous processes before they are pulled up. And so I would want to agree with that statistics. But I would want to say this, that a lot of the crimes we see happen to start from the family unit. And I keep making reference to the family unit because, like I said, every boy child grows from a family with a father and a mother. And of course, his first mentor or role model should be his father. And if the father is, right, society-wise and all of that, the boy child will have a worthy model that he should follow. When we talk about vices as it relates to the boy child or boys generally, we're talking about people who probably have grown from disjointed family or dysfunctional families where they do not feel love, they don't feel compassionate, where they were not given responsibility early, they were not taught emotional intelligence, families where they did not have positive role models in terms of their fathers, their uncles, or any other bigger man also in the family. So most of these vices stems from the fact that they did not have all of these factors at play in their lives. So if we want to stem the tide of vices, if we want to actually curtail whatever it is that boys go into today, as it relates to negative misdemeanors, we must first of all put godly role models in front of them, beginning from their fathers, beginning from their immediate relatives that are men, beginning from their friends or senior friends or role models, as we want to put it, and then we go into the larger society. A lot of the things that we complain of in the larger scale all started from a smaller scale that was not contained, that was not managed. So if we can manage the boy child from the family unit, then from the society unit, then we can have them managed in the large scale. Whilst growing up, I'm a millennial, and I can tell you that whilst growing up, we were trained on a communal basis. Most of us were brought up by the community. As a boy child back then, I couldn't just become stubborn and then I would expect that somebody somewhere will clap his hands for me and say, "Oh, this guy, you are doing good." No, when I do something wrong, even if it's not my family, even if it's not my parents, I know that there's one big uncle somewhere that will look at me and will even spank me or even scold me or even beat me thoroughly and take me back to my home and then report me to my parents. But lately we have parents who are into soft parenting, as it is said, and a lot of all of those things. Then they end up having boy children who grow through the ranks of that soft parenting and not becoming responsible, not becoming empathetic, and not having positive role models around their lives, and not becoming emotionally intelligent. So it affects their life growing up and then brings them to a point where they have negative vices as their norms.
As is such that we are deeply rooted, a lot of the things we do, our practices, are deeply rooted in tradition, in customs, in, as it were, some sort of beliefs, even religion, for example. All right, and you realize that most of the roles that have been quote unquote assigned to the boy child, even as he grew up into manhood, are rooted in these foundations, as it were, tradition, customs, and religion. And this is 2026. 26 years into a new millennium, for example, the new SAD, 21st century as we call it. Is there any chance we can begin to look at the reality or what the time says, as we are told, and ask ourselves what are the specific things we need to re-engineer, as it were, about the boy child so he can better fit into society, and then of course we'll have that sort of equilibrium between the boy child and the girl child?
Okay. Like I stated earlier, a lot of male children, of course, the boy child generally speaking, has been affected by, the shifting cultural values and, the traditional models of child upbringing. And over time, some of these models have changed as a result of technological advancements, as a result of social civilization and, social adaptation and all of that. But, one of the things we need to take note of is the fact that for a boy child who needs to transition, of course, from being a boy to a man, and then in parallel with a girl child, every male child needs to be taught responsibility, how to, take responsibility early in life. It's laughable that a lot of times we have boy children who we don't teach certain things because we feel like they are just gender-based. I remember growing up as a child, my mom taught me how to wash the plates, how to sweep and mop the floor, how to cook. Even I think I was in primary 6 or so, or just when I learned how to cook. So a lot of these things were things that shaped us up while we were growing up. Now, a boy child that needs to transition properly, especially in the ever-shifting cultural landscape, needs to be taught how to take responsibility early. And part of the responsibility is they need to learn how to own up to their mistakes. Of course, that you are a human, you make mistakes, then own up to your mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and change from those things so that you don't make those mistakes again. Those kind of things are stuff that make you become responsible early. You need to learn how to respect people and respect the property of people and government, generally speaking. Those are things that connotes, taking responsibility early. Another thing that they need to be taught is how to be emotionally intelligent. Every boy child must learn emotional intelligence. One of the things our boy children lack these days is the fact that a lot of them do not know what it means to actually be empathetic towards others. Many of them don't put themselves in the shoe of others. They feel like, oh, because this person is going through it, this is he didn't do the right thing and all of that. But a lot of times we need to learn to teach our boy children that the strength of their character comes from their ability to embrace emotional intelligence and become emotionally mature. Okay, so our boys need to learn how to express also as part of the emotional intelligence. They need to learn how to express their emotions the right way. Because you are a boy does not mean you have to just boil everything down in your heart. You're going through a hard time. You can't speak up to somebody. You don't have a model. You can speak up to. You don't have a mentor. You can talk to. You don't. You just keep it within yourself. That's what leads to the rate of suicide we have among young people. Okay, so boys need to learn taking responsibility. They need to learn emotional intelligence. They need to also have godly or positive role models that will show them the path. This is what will make for a holistic upbringing of a child or a holistic upbringing of a boy from boyhood to adulthood, in pari passu with what we have with the females. Because, of course, in the female gender and in the female industry, or should I say sector now, we have a lot of role models, we have a lot of trainings, seminar, workshops, symposiums that go on and on to bring them up to speed with what is latest. You see people doing a lot of art projects and all of this. These are some of the advocacies we also need to bring to the boy child space so that they can also come to speed with what is happening, especially with the ever-changing landscape of the culture and the tradition as it's were that we practice in the 21st century.
In that context, I mean, someone would define it as, your ability not to talk, your ability to hold it up, your ability not to express, your ability not to get angry and all of that. But emotions are part of our making, and I like the fact that you've pointed out the fact that emotional intelligence can also mean knowing when to talk, knowing how to express yourself, knowing when to express yourself and who to express yourself to a certain time. There seems to be a subtle battle going on, especially on the internet space, feminists versus, I call them maninists at this point, or maybe the patriarchists, right? So let me put it that way. And most of these guys, the Gen Zs are rising up today to also question the norm that, oh, do I have to provide? I mean, you want equality, so why do I have to be the one bringing the money? If you want equality, you should also know how to bring money, and that is the argument. On the other hand, the feminists are saying, no, yes, we want equality, but we are still going girls. Treat us as such, right? We're not asking for, we want the benefits, but maybe not the responsibility that comes with it. So it has caused a subtle gender war that has become, if you like, called intense, right? Intense. And I can tell you clearly that there are men, it's coming from a group of boys, upcoming men, maybe men, right, that are rising up to challenge the norms. But what is your stand on manly roles versus feminine roles?
Okay, that's very interesting for you to come from the point of view of feminism and all of that. I am a Christian, and as a Christian, one of the things I believe is that every creation of God has a specific purpose, and God's purpose for the man is different from God's purpose for the woman, in that even though generally speaking, on a generic level, their purpose is to give him glory, but specifically what they need to do to give him glory is different. And now I'm saying all of that to say that as a man, being a sole provider is part of your design. Being a protector is part of your design. Being a giver, being somebody who sacrifices is part of your design. A man cannot live any other way outside of these things, because that is how God designed you to be. Of course, a woman, on the other hand, is at the receiving end. She's a receiver. You give her anything, she receives and she multiplies. Most women that I know are multipliers. Of course, from childbirth to every aspect of your life, you know that a woman is a multiplier. Now, but I'm saying all of that to say this, that as a man or as a boy child, you should discover that your purpose is not just solely it's not solely intertwined with trading words with a woman on your role or your specific role. Why? Because what she's supposed to do in whatever union you find yourself is different from what you're supposed to do in that union. Take, for example, as a married man in my home, I expect myself to provide for my family. I expect my wife to nurture the family. I expect my wife to take care of the home front. Do you understand? This is her role, but that does not mean that there cannot be an intertwining of these roles. There are times when there's as a result of course, the shifting economic landscape that we find ourselves, things can just go haywire. Maybe I know a lot of times we see on Twitter the woman is earning more than the man, all of those things, and they say, oh, the man should not submit to the woman in terms of economic powers. He should find a way to always assert his dominance. If you understand the context of your relationship, that is in this sense marriage, and that a woman is supposed to be a nurturer, is supposed to be somebody who multiplies, and you're supposed to be a provider. But again, because of the fact that socio-economic landscape has changed and she's now providing, that does not mean that you will negate your responsibility, and that does not mean that you will let go of what God has proposed you to do in that relationship. So many times it boils down to the issue of understanding of roles, specific roles by the individuals in a specific, in that specific relationship. So if the female or the woman understands what her role is and her purpose is in that relationship, she focuses on what she's supposed to do. Even if the economic landscape changes, it doesn't change who she is. If the man understands that he's supposed to be a provider, he's supposed to be a protector, he's supposed to be there to sacrifice for his family, it does not change regardless of the socioeconomic downtime that he or she or the family is facing at that particular point in time. The whole thing boils down to understanding what your specific role is. And then for the boy child, one of the things I would want to quickly say is this, that you learn to discover your purpose on time. Learn to discover your giftings, your passion, your value. You identify them, you define them on time. That is what gives you a better perspective when you come into a relationship with someone of the opposite sex. That's what gives you better perspective when it comes to dealing with a woman as it relates to roles and purpose and all of that. So in a nutshell, everybody has his or her role to play in a relationship. The man has his role to play, a woman has his role to play. Just understand what your role is fit into your role, regardless of what happens in the socioeconomic landscape, fit into your role, work according to what your role says, and then the woman fits into her role, she works according to what her role says, and then everybody will be A-okay.
Let's hope so, really. But the indices or even the reality that we have in front of us doesn't point in that direction, sadly so. We live in times where money appears to be the overriding consideration for everything. Again, a man is expected to be the one to provide for his mom, provide for his sisters where necessary, depending on what the family is like, the structure, and sometimes maybe the father has passed. He has to provide for his girlfriend. In fact, we're still having debates now whether a boy should pay for a date or they should split the bill. That debate is ongoing. All right, and then of course he has to, by all means, provide for his wife. He has to provide for his children, including, no doubt about that, his daughters. So there's so much on the shoulders of the boy child, right from from that teenage era all the way till when he eventually becomes a man. In what ways can we balance society's expectations? Again, we must take into cognizance the cultural, the traditional, and religious considerations. How do we make society understand what exactly expectations should be so that a man's neck doesn't get broken on account of what society expects of him?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, when it comes to the issue of balance, a man must understand that he's still a man, and that whatsoever happens, he's still very vulnerable, he's still very puny, he's still immortal, and that he can't carry the load of the whole world on his head. So, to bring balance when it comes to the issue of taking responsibility, a man must understand that he cannot do all things at all times. So, number one thing, you must understand that you are not omnipotent, as it were, as you know, in the description of who God is. You are not omniscient. You cannot be everywhere at every time. So, to bring balance, you must understand the things that you can do and ensure that you do them well as at that time when you can do them. The things you can't do, you'll forgo. You know, in economics, there's something they call opportunity cost, I think. And it's just it's more or less like giving a scale of preference to the things that are priorities in your life, the things that you can handle per time. As a man, there are certain things you can handle with the resources you have available at your disposal per time. You handle those responsibilities with the available resources, and then you let go of the ones that are not pressing at that particular point in time. You know, whilst you were asking, you talked about splitting bills when a man or a young boy goes to on a date with a girl child and all of that. Now, a lot of these things, of course, like we said earlier on, are as a result of the cultural shifts that we've experienced and the traditional shifts that we've experienced, and a lot of the infusion of foreign culture into the traditional African setting. But that does not mean that a man will negate his responsibility of being a sole provider. Okay, but in the sense that you don't have the resources to provide for something at a particular point in time, to bring balance to your life, you go for what you can afford, and if you can't afford it at that particular point in time, you let go of it. Just do your scale of preference, look at the priorities you have for your life, follow your priorities, handle your business based on the priorities that you have, and then you let go of the ones that you can't handle per time. Over the course of days or months or years, you can be able to come back to the things you've not been able to handle, and then you can handle them. Secondly, you must also learn as a man to be vulnerable. I make it a point of duty to tell as many of my friends and even the young boys that I mentor and people in my fellowship that you must learn to speak up. If you're going through hard time, you might not just take vuvuzela or take a mic and go on the mic stand and begin, and I mean on the rooftop and begin to say to everybody, but have somebody you speak with, have a godly role model, have a positive role model that you can always talk to. Quite recently, I am talking to a young boy who has been abused homosexually from when he was a very young boy, probably 13, 14 thereabout, and that abuse has gone on for quite a number of years. And one of the things that kept on reoccurring that I discovered was the fact that every time he went through the abuse, there was really no male figure in his life he could talk to. There was nobody he could open up to. And that brings to my mind that a lot of our young boys and a lot of young men are going through hard times, not necessarily because they can't handle it, but because they don't have somebody they can share this burden of what they're going through with. And you know, like they said in our African parlance, a problem shared is a problem half solved. If you share with somebody, somebody can just bring a fresh perspective into what you're going through and makes you see it from a different angle. And then it might not really do away with the problem, but it gives you a different mindset towards that particular challenge. Okay, so one of the things young men also need to do is to learn to be vulnerable. Speak up when you are down. If you need to, visit a therapist, there are a lot of therapists online. You can, meet up with anyone, speak up, and then have them, speak to you through, through that season that you're going through in that particular challenge you're facing. So generally speaking, a man must learn to just be vulnerable. A man must learn to take responsibility early. A man must have positive role models to help him through all of the challenges that he faces. But all of these things still boil down to the fact that a man must take responsibility. A man cannot shy away from taking responsibility. That is who we are. That is what God has called us to be. That is what the Creator, in His absolute, genius, has created us to be. So we need to take responsibility. We need to do the right things at the right time. Just that we need to create balance by speaking up, by taking responsibility early, by having role models that we can speak up to when we face down times in our lives.
All right, Simeon, we're taking a quick break right now. We would like to expand this conversation a bit further. When we return from this break, we'll look at a couple of other, if you like, factors regarding the boy child beyond the ceremony of the 16th of May. Please do stay with us. Up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
for the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
Like I jokingly mentioned a while ago, the challenges facing the boy child, whether in Nigeria or anywhere in the world, cannot be solved on May 16 alone. May 16 is just a reminder globally for us to pay more attention to those issues. But when we domesticate the challenges, especially as they touch on our own reality back at home, you realize that there's so much to talk about that even the time here on Global Morning will fail us. Because I'm just thinking, I was going to ask him a while ago now, questions around skill acquisition for the boy child, because that's one of the part of the focus for the year. How do we ensure that the boy child, even though he may not be, for whatever reason, all right, financial constraint, some sort of hurdles to access, be able to acquire formal education, at least to maybe university level, for example, how can he get to seek an alternative in terms of acquiring a skill, learning a trade? Because those are not things that seem to be fashionable in this day and age. I remember, for example, right from, so we were just going to cycle out of primary school. This was primary 6, third term as it's called. I had a friend, I can't forget him, Innocent, right? He says, look, business is all I want to do. It was like a joke. I couldn't figure because my mom had said we'll go to university. So how can this boy be saying? So for me as a young boy at that age, I felt he was doing something contrary to what his parents had wanted, because there's no way your parents would have thought of you going to learn trade. And treasury, by the time we were talking JS3, this guy was flying into business and stuff like that. I mean, this was many years ago. I'm only saying that to say that you always have those two paths or those two routes, as we say. You either have to go to school for formal education, all right, and then of course you also have the option of saying you want to learn a skill. But the question is, how much of access do we have in that regard? We understand that our guest, Simeon Ekpa, has rejoined us on the program. So again, I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Simeon, for staying on. I was just interacting with my colleague now, Priscilla, about skill acquisition for the boy child, because whether you like it or not, you may have gone to school, you may have gone through university, bagging maybe more than one degree, for example. We can't say the same of every boy child in this country today, apparently for a wide range of reasons. How do we expand access to things like skill acquisitions, things like maybe trades, having to learn things that can empower them for today and for the future, especially in this day and age where tech, for example, has become the next big oil?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very interesting part of the boy-child conversation that you brought up. When it comes to skills acquisition, I would like to put it succinctly that every boy child generally needs to have a foundational skill. Now, it doesn't matter whether it is vocational or digital, but I believe, this is my own opinion and this is my belief, that every boy child should have a skill. And why would you want to have a skill? First off, because you want to be financially independent in the future. You want to have knowledge that is, of course, outside of the four walls of school, as it were. And you would also want to be able to compete globally on an advantageous scale. Now, when it comes to skills acquisition, I think we need a lot of industry players to partner with boy-child advocacy groups. And what I mean by that is this. We have a lot of industry players who are well-to-do as it relates to vocational skills and digital skills. But we don't have a lot of them partnering, as it were, with boy-child advocacy group. Now, I give you an instance. Say you have an industry that is clearly into fashion, tailoring, from crafting of the designs on paper and with paper and pen, and then to sewing and all of that. Now, when you have such kind of industries, you would expect that industries that have been expanded to that level would want to have more boys coming to learn that trade or coming to learn that vocation, not necessarily because they want to impede on their formal education, but because they want to give them an avenue to add to their knowledge, to add to their skills, to add to their financial independence, as it were, when they grow up from teenagehood to adulthood. So I think one of the major things we need to do is to have industry players partner with boy child advocacy group, not just even partner. We need to encourage them to make vocational skills glamorous, make digital skills glamorous, not just making it glamorous because of the sake of you want to have people, all of them in there, but because you really want to have an impact in the life of these young people. You see, quite a number of the young people we have that are so-called into the get-rich-quick syndrome, what we call Yahoo Yahoo on this part of the world, is because we don't have people who will encourage them to learn skills and who will empower them when they are done learning these skills. Because it is one thing to have a skill, the next thing is to be empowered to be able to bring that skill to life and earn something from what you do, earn a living from what you do. Where I have quite a number of boys, that I've mentored, that I've worked with, who have small businesses that they do. I have a number of boys who are into tailoring. Some of them are into designing merch, t-shirts and caps and hoodies and all of these things. But they require finances to be able to go into all of this. And that's where industry players come into play. When they discover that these young boys have learned some of these skills, they come with the finances. You can even give them a timeline and say, okay, I'm giving you 5 million and I want you to turn it over in the next maybe 1 year, 2 years, come up with something that you can do, bring some money out of these, skills that you have, pay your rent, pay whatever it is you need to pay to get this product to your customers, get these things to the customers, make your sales, and then bring the profit, into your own storehouse or whatever. Then give me my own capital back. When we have industry players who think like that, come into this system, we have a lot of our boys who I bet you they will leave whatever it is they are doing that is, seen in negative spotlights, like Yahoo, like theft, like and cheating and forgery and fraud and all whatnot. So we need to have industry players coming into this. I myself, speaking with you, I learned a skill when I was just a teenager. I learned how to sew. I was a tailor's boy for about a year and all of that, and I was sewing clothes for people, making some money from it. And then admission came. I went to school. And then over time, I just do tailoring as a leisure. But you can't negate the fact that I have a skill. If all things, comes to us and I need to sew a clothes for myself, I can still go on the machine and sew it for myself. So that's another thing that our boys need to understand. Having a skill is not just necessarily because you want to earn money, but because you need to have something that will make you independent of others. You can be able to have something that you can always fall back to when you require it. And I also want to quickly say this before I bring this to a close, that we shouldn't just limit skills to vocation. We can expand it to digital skills, especially in the world where we find ourselves. There's AI and a lot of things are data driven. With there's data analysis, there's coding, programming and all of that. There are digital skills that young boys can learn. We just need industry players to come in, teach them these things, empower them, and see them through every process that it takes to make some good money out of whatever it is they have learned.
talk about the success rate. I find your advocacy quite interesting, because I know a lot of maybe older boys older men, let me not say older boys, older men will find it difficult to confide in people. Like you said, they have not learned vulnerability. And how easy has it been for you accessing young boys and coaching them? What would you say is the success rate? Because people are configured from as little as 4 years, 5 years. Do not cry as boys. You beat a small child, why you cry? Your mothers can do that. But then I want to know, what has it been? What's the experience? What's the journey like for you?
Okay, that's very interesting. I have been a boy child advocate for as long as I can know, or I can remember rather. I've been a teacher in the children's department in my church for almost all my life. That's the only department I've worked in all my life. So I've always mingled with children, and I've always seen every side of children right from when I was, much younger than this. And I can tell you that the experience has been quite interesting, has been quite tasking, has been quite challenging, especially with the advent of a lot of social vices as it were now, compared to, let's say, 5, 6, 10 years ago. Let me just put it at 10 years ago. You see, we have a lot of teenagers lately who I can tell you, you can take it to the bank, that they even know more than you when it comes to knowledge about everything. But what they just need is proper guidance. What they need is proper mentoring, to have somebody who will tutor them and teach them what to do part time. But they know a lot. So the experience has been that I meet a lot of young boys who I know they know some of these things that they should know, but they don't have proper role models, or they don't have proper guidance. That is where I step in and I begin to provide proper guidance to these ones. Then there are a couple of boys that I also meet who don't even know A from B. They have not, as it were, been properly grounded in scripture, because of course I'm a Christian, like I said earlier on. So I do a lot of my advocacy from the point of view of the Bible. So many of them have not been grounded in scripture. They don't know anything. So I take them through the basics of salvation, faith, grace, mercy, and everything that encompasses the redemptive work of Jesus for their lives. And then I go through that, and then I meet up with them at the point of helping them to discover their purpose and deploying their innate potentials to the world. Because it's not just enough to know what you have, it's better off when you give out what you have and others benefit from what you have. Okay, like Winston Churchill will say, it's not just what you know. Everybody will not just be focused on what you know, but will want to be focused on how much you can give or something like that. So a lot of times I help them discover their potentials and I help them deploy those potentials to their society at large. Then I also have had experiences, of course, quite recently with people who have been active Yahoo boys. I can tell you for sure that some of them have experienced a level of downtimes as it relates to emotions, as it relates to their spiritual life, as it relates to their character building and all of that. But every one of them, or every one of the boys that come to me, comes with a different package. And so as a mentor, I just make sure that my dealing with every boy that comes across my space is bespoke. I make sure that my dealings are suited uniquely for whatever the person is coming with. And then as a mentor, definitely I have to be one step ahead. What I do is I ensure that I do a lot of studying, I do a lot of course, praying, and I do a lot of research. I meet up. I also have mentors. I have mentors that I also run to. So when I feel like I'm having a downtime that I don't understand the particular case that is presented to me, I go back to my mentors, I speak with them, they guide me properly and tell me what to do. So basically the experience of being a boy child advocate has not been really easy, but I will tell you that it has been worthwhile while God has been helping me through this journey. Every boy that comes to my space comes with a unique personality, and so I also meet them at the middle point with a unique approach to whatever personality or issues or problem they present with, particularly at every point in time.
That was quite detailed. I want you to help maybe women understand the boy need. A lot of ladies, still have that clash when they go into relationships, basically because they have not understood this is how a man operates. This is what makes a man, right? And lots of mothers too that find themselves in that whole dilemma. You're talking to your child and you're feeling he's too stubborn. You understand? A boy is definitely wired in a different way from a woman. But you need to, I would like you to help us understand the needs of a boy child, especially, in this generation.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Anytime you ask questions and you put it in pari passu with a female child, I feel quite giddy. Let me put it like that. But what it is this, that every boy child, first of all, wants to be seen. Every boy child wants to be seen, and by seen I mean every boy child wants to be respected. You see, there's this innate ability, like when I started earlier, and I put that out there, that a boy child has innate ability of responsibility. Now, every boy child wants to be respected, in that at the societal level, but let me start from the family level. At the family level, he's seen as somebody who has something to offer at every point in time, whether or not he's just a child. If you see a child of maybe 10 years throwing tantrums, it is basically because most of the times that child is not given the opportunity to present himself or to present what he knows. So every boy child wants to be seen, every boy child wants to be heard, every boy child wants to be respected. That is just the basics for the boy child. Now, in addition to being seen and being heard and being, of course, respected, a boy child wants to be understood. When, we were talking earlier on, we talked about the fact that a lot of boy children go into vices, not necessarily because they want to do that, but because a lot of times society, family, society conditions them to do that. Now, imagine you have a boy child who is, being brought up by a single mother, and he gets to a certain age, let's say 17, 18. And of course, at that age, of course, he's still a teenager, but he has already gotten to a stage of accountability where he can take certain kind of responsibility. But you are denying him, as a mother, now you are denying him that responsibility to take. Now, you are killing, gradually, you are subtly killing that part of him that is supposed to take responsibility. So every boy child wants to actually be given that reverence, that he can actually take responsibility, that he can actually do what will make his family go right, what will make his life go right. Now, in as much as we know the boy child who wants to be seen, wants to be heard, wants to be respected, wants to be given responsibility, the boy child must also understand that he needs to be subject under authority so that he can learn. You learn through a season so that when your models are no longer there, you can be able to stand on your feet and do the things you need to do. Okay, so on a ground level, every boy child wants to be seen, every boy child wants to be heard. In fact, every man you see has an inner boy child that is craving for attention. Of course, if there are a lot of married people who come across this interview later on, I believe they will agree with me that their husbands sometimes, especially the women now, their husbands sometimes present with some kind of childish tantrums in the house. And that's not because he's a child, but that's because there's a boy trapped in this big man you are seeing that wants to just be seen, wants to be heard. So if you have a boy child, please give them that space, give them the opportunity to be seen, to be respected, respect them, give them the opportunity to be heard, hear them out when they have something to say. Don't just shut them out and say, oh, why are you crying? Why are you doing this? Why are you throwing tantrums? You are a man. Don't you know you are not supposed to be crying? No. Give them that opportunity to be heard. Hear them. That's when you can be able to proffer solutions to whatever it is that is, going on in their heads at that particular point in time. Generally speaking, a boy child wants to be respected. A boy child wants to be seen. And that's what
of policy. I think for a second, maybe your thoughts didn't land. Perhaps you can just patch it on as part of your response to my next question. The issue of policy, because what I would like you to note is that this conversation has been on the level of community for the most part. But let's talk about policy, because we have the Ministry of Social Development. We may not have it by that particular, as it were, appellation anymore, but it is still part of the overall responsibility of government to provide a social enabling environment for the boy child, just as we expect government to do for the girl child. Do you see us as a country that has been intentional about our policy formulation, policy implementation, and policy evaluation and monitoring as it has to do with the boy child? Because the boy child has to go to school, the boy child has to be, as it were, prevented or insulated from crimes, the boy child has to be subjected to the laws of the land and things like that. And to that extent, one would naturally expect that you have a set of policies to help make this a reality. But in Nigeria today, when you look at the sort of system we have in front of us, is it your assessment that policy positioning is realistic enough to help address these issues that the boy child grapples with?
Okay. First off, I would like to quickly take it up from saying that we have lots of policies as it relates to, of course, Nigeria as a country that more or less address the issue of the boy child, and not just the boy child. We're talking about the child, generally speaking. I recall that I think in 1957 or thereabout, or even before 1957, free education was made sacrosanct in Nigeria, and a lot of children, of course, have been beneficiaries of these right from that time up until now. You have a lot of preschools and all of that in all the states in the country, and you would agree with me that it's because of policy formulation and implementation that brought about that free education. Now, if you look at other sectors as it relates to not just the boy child, but even to the girl child, you see that policy formulation has not been an issue. Of course, on the floor of the House of Reps and of the Senate, we've heard of policies as against gender mutilation, of course, for ladies now, genital mutilation, rape, and so many other things, abuse, gender violence and gender-based violence and all of those things. But when it comes to the boy child, I would like to also categorically state that we have policies that relate to boy children, having a positive outlook in life as it relates to our country, Nigeria. The issue is not just policy formulation. Most of the times, the issue is policy implementation. And then when it comes to policy implementation, I would like to take it a bit, a notch down a bit by saying that the implementation of the policies comes from the key functionaries that are supposed to implement these things. Now, if we take a cue from the ministry you earlier mentioned, of course, social development, you will see that there are lots of people who are working in that ministry, for example, who do not have anything as it relates to knowledge in that ministry, who do not know anything as it relates to knowledge to that ministry, and as it relates to having something to do with either the boy or the girl child. No, it's just like putting square pegs in round holes. So what I'm saying is that if we want to have proper and accurate policy implementation, we should have square pegs in square holes. We should have the right set of people in the right places. We should have people who have or who have undergone some sort of work with, boy child or girl child, or even women as it relates, whatever form or level of advocacy you are looking at in the social space. You should have people who have done some work in this level or who have some passion in this level. It's just like saying you have an engineer who is so good with, let's say, a mechanical engineer who is so good with machines, and then you take him straight up and make him a director in the Ministry of Social Development. Probably he doesn't even have any knowledge in that place. Bringing implementation of some of those policies will now become a key challenge because he doesn't even know what to address in the life of this children or in the lives of the particular set of people that are being questioned at that particular point in time. So what I'm saying in essence is this: as it relates to policy in the country, we have policies that are at work, or we have policies rather that are present, but we lack in the place of implementation. We lack in the place of having the right set of people to bring some of these things to bear. Because whether or not you like it, even up to date, we've been debating on whether, for example, child marriages should go on or not should go on, or not to go on rather, whether we could go on ahead and marry a 14 or a 13-year-old girl to somebody who is 56 or 57. Some of those debates have been going on the floor of the House and the Senate and some other social advocacy cycles for a long time. The issue is not whether some of these debates are going on. The issue is the fact that when we come to a point of agreement, who are the people who are supposed to implement these things? Do we have the right set of people to implement these things? That is the question. So we need to have the right set of people, square pegs in square holes, implementing some of these policies that have been formulated. Once we have people, the right set of people, implementing some of these policies, the boy or child definitely will have a positive outlook towards life, and everything will be El Dorado going forward from there.
All right, I think this is what we're going to say. A big thank you to you, Simeon Ekpa, boy child advocate, for taking out time to speak up for the boy child this morning on the program. You have no idea how proud of you Priscilla is, and it's no different for me as well as all of our viewers this morning. We appreciate your insights and this sacrifice of time that you've made on the program today.
Many thanks. I'm so grateful. Thank you for the opportunity.
Right. Well, we'll take a break from that conversation, but just as we begin to wrap up, what more can we say? The highlights are very clear. Beyond May 16 of every year, the boy child's issues need to be made front and center, as we say, because there has been so much of systematic neglect over time, and hopefully we are now beginning to not only identify those issues, but we're also making efforts to address them.
I think it also starts from the boy child being conscious of their celebration days, because over the weekend it was International Day of the Boy Child, but instead it was buzzing with controversies. Nobody even took it upon themselves to celebrate themselves as a boy child.
It's your day.
It's your day. I mean, you find out that some sets of people come out to attack the other gender when they start to celebrate themselves. When you have this day to celebrate yourself and you don't take advantage.
Nobody's coming to save you.
Nobody's coming to save you. You have to do it yourself. When you start to celebrate yourself, people will rally around you. That's the way it works. Women celebrate themselves, and you see that they make a buzz out of it. No man actually says, "Oh," when they see that there's a buzz, they now join. People that want to join. It's not on social media. Those that want to, make noise with it. Those that want to go against, and they begin to raise noise about it. So men should learn to celebrate themselves. I celebrate, every man in my life, and I want them to actually learn to celebrate themselves.
I think society should be such that we realize that the boy of the day is going to grow up to become the man of tomorrow. So let's not make it look like there's a dichotomy between boys and men, because the people we refer to as men today were boys. Just yesterday, I see here, for example, I remember clearly how one time I was being cranky with my mom about how that I needed to get a particular amount of money to take to school, primary school, funny enough. It took a lady, a neighbor from the adjacent house, to come teach me a lesson on behalf of my mom, all right? And the lesson today stays with me many years. So the point I'm trying to make is I grew from that boy to becoming a man who now realizes that I was just being, as it were, naughty, or you say mischievous, all right? So we're saying that there's a transition, and we must live as a society realizing that that transition happens between boyhood and manhood. So we must invest in the boy today, so we get to see that kind of man that we desire tomorrow. And tomorrow, as I said, today is the tomorrow that we talked about yesterday. So let that investment begin, and we celebrate all the boys across the world, starting from Nigeria. Again, we appreciate our guest this morning, Simeon Ekpa, who joined us virtually from Kaduna. That's our program today. Remember, as always, that's the views of our guests across all of our presentations. Their opinions are
And I am Priscilla Obasi, wishing you a beautiful day, and of course I celebrate the boy child. Bye.